Hello and welcome to another installment of Camp COVID. This week I talked to Sumeet Kulkarni. This is another guy I met at the College Park, Maryland SciComm conference last year. He had some really cool stuff to talk about in terms of LIGO. I guess he works in I know he works in LIGO collaborations. He also recently had a Scientific American article published, which is really cool. He's a very active SciCommer, and yeah, enjoy our chat.
Last week I was pretty bad. I had this dry cough,
Mhm.
and there's no way of knowing what happened because uh, you can't really get tested. But yeah, it's fine. It's like I had it for 2 or 3 days. No fever, but it's just strange.
Huh.
um,
Maybe just coincidence or something.
Probably, yeah. As I said, there's no way of figuring it out.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, it's fine now.
yeah.
Um, how's it going with you? So you live in Toronto, is it?
Just outside Toronto,
Okay.
Hamilton, Ontario. It's about 45 minutes from Toronto. But yeah.
Mhm.
And where are you right now?
I'm in a town called Oxford in Mississippi.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so it's probably good to live in a little town right now because it's like, especially with the students out of the university, it's like fewer than 20,000 people around.
Mm.
So there's really no chance of exposure. I can go out for a walk and
Yeah, that's pretty
hardly run
good.
into people.
So,
Yeah.
have you been TAing? Were you a TA before all this?
I was TAing this semester, and I was doing
So,
astronomy.
okay. How has that changed?
Uh, we're going ahead with it to try and finish off the labs, but of course, like we do a lot of outdoor stuff whenever we get the chance. Like we go outside, look at the sky, and we can
Mhm.
do none of it now. So it's come down to doing a set of some short and I would say silly labs,
Okay.
which kind of let the students work out a few things on paper and turn it in. So I'm like conducting the labs on Zoom, and they're doing the work. So
Right.
it's
Still
it's
get,
kind of a compromise.
hmm, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Still getting something done, getting some learning done,
Hmm.
perhaps.
It's funny though because like before spring break, like every single night was cloudy when we
Oh
tried to
no.
do. We have started to get these like nice and clear nights with good like warm weather.
Yeah.
So
I guess there's some pretty nice
that's
astronomy
appreciated.
apps for seeing different constellations and stuff. Have you shown
There
that
are,
to?
yeah.
Is that something you use in the course?
Yeah, we
Or
have we have designed it as kind of an extra credit lab because one of the apps is paid, so we didn't really don't really want to make the students do it. But
okay.
uh, I think there's one called Sky Safari that I'm using right now that's being recommended.
Okay.
But there's
So
lots of free ones also. Like there's one called Night Sky which is free. That's on iOS, which has worked pretty well for me before.
okay, cool. So
Mhm.
how's your actual research stuff coming? Do you have access to the stuff that you work on, or
Yeah, most of my research was on my computer, so that
okay,
hasn't changed at all. That's probably good for me. But I'm also kind of in a transition stage where I switched advisors over December, so
okay,
I'm just getting started, and most of my work right now involves like reading papers and so on. So it's slow, but I am not affected by the
oh,
situation in that sense. Yeah.
that's a good bright side.
What about you?
So I was kind of in an odd spot where I'm kind of coming to the end of my PhD.
Hmm,
So most of my projects have been completed in terms of like the lab stuff. And it was
that's
mostly
great.
in
Yeah.
a position of writing it up. Um, but my supervisor has suggested that we push off my graduation date from September to December.
Hmm.
I put the writing on hold because he's sort of bogged down with some stuff,
I
um,
see.
especially like organizing virtual courses and stuff.
Yeah,
So in,
they a lot of
yeah,
them are busy. Yeah.
yeah. So instead of actually writing my thesis stuff, I'm going to continue getting paid through to December, but instead I'll spend my summer helping with these virtual courses.
Okay. Yeah. So is that a part of your TA duties?
So it's going to be something
It's like,
different.
yeah.
Um, Normally I don't TA during the summer, but this will be sort of like an extra project type thing that they'll pay me for at
Hmm.
regular student rate.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's good that you have it figured out. Like I I don't know what I'm gonna be doing over the summer and how they're going to handle things. Like
yeah.
I'm currently a little bit bummed. So last night, as I had applied for the AAAS Mass Media Fellowship, if you've heard of it, like I was close to getting one, but yesterday I found out that I didn't make the cut,
Oh,
and
that's too bad.
yeah, and it's because of COVID-19. I asked them, what happened, because it was a really positive interview I had for the final round, and
Hmm.
they said that the potential placement sites, like a few of the sites, they withdrew their, they said that they won't be able to host anymore, and
Okay.
so so that was disappointing.
Yeah. Is there any
And
opportunity to apply, say, next year if things open up again, or?
yeah, they've said for sure. I have time in my program, so I'm finishing
Okay.
my third year, so I'll be able to do it next year. So
Okay.
that's
So what kind
I'm
of
hoping for
research
that.
is that? What kind of stuff were you hoping to get placed on?
Oh, so this is for the mass media fellowship. What they do is they basically put you up with some media outlet, and you work there as a reporter for like 8 to 10 weeks in the summer.
Okay.
So you cover news stories and write articles. Some of the places offer like video and podcast options, but it's
Cool.
mostly writing.
Okay.
So I was like, for me, I think they said like National Geographic was kind of interested before uh, they decided not to host, but they have lots of like great. It's a mix of newspapers as well as like online
Yeah.
magazines and so on. It's a
Cool.
great fellowship, like, and especially since I'm interested in doing science communication later on after graduating.
Mhm.
That's one of the best things I can do to gain experience.
Yeah, that's kind of ideal.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we met at obviously ComSciCon,
Yeah.
uh, and out of
Psychon
that,
AIP, yeah.
yeah, that's the one. Out of that, you turned your little project into an actual article, right?
Right, yeah. Uh, my bit was about mass cap black holes,
Okay,
and that got published in Scientific American.
that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm really happy that they like my pitch.
Yeah, can you tell me
um,
a little bit about the process, like what you pitched them, what stage of completion it was, and kind of the editing process?
sure. So the one what I wrote at ComSciCon was following up one of these, LIGO. Once they, in their current observing run, they started releasing their discoveries in real time. Like, okay, we got this signal right now, and some of these signals started looking really things that we hadn't seen before. So I wrote an article about that, following up one of the signals that we had gotten in August. I think ComSciCon was in September, right?
Yeah, somewhere around September,
Yeah.
October-ish.
So my article was about, oh, this is exciting stuff. These the public can follow these real-time discoveries. And at ComSciCon, actually, while we were there, there was another signal which was stronger in terms of its significance that fell under the same category.
Oh,
So, and that was probably like on our first evening. So the next day we had that expert review session, and I told our expert about it, and he had already said that the way you've framed this article is really nice, but you should definitely add the new
hmm.
discovery to it. And um and then he just encouraged me to pitch the articles, uh, I mean, write out the pitch. And I decided to, like, for my first pitch, I decided to go for Siam, so go for the best.
Yeah.
And I had like otherwise I was going to try astrobites and a whole lot of other stuff. But
Mhm.
and
Great that you
yeah,
shot for the big one first.
yeah, that's always a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, don't be shy about it. Like, it's not like I knew that I had a great article, but I just decided to go for it.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it was very timely, I'm sure. So that definitely helped.
yeah, and yeah, I think in my pitch, I'm trying to remember. Um, it helped that I was a part of the collaboration, so I was someone uh, involved with the research,
Mhm.
but also that I was, talking about something that the public might find useful, and uh, so I think that really helped.
Mhm.
But then there was a bit of a back and forth with the editor at Siam, and that was a very good learning experience also because um, at the expert session at ComSciCon, people had told me it's a great article, but then the SciAm editor told me, yes, it's a good article, but it's written in the way that you have you find articles on Wikipedia
Okay.
effectively. So I think Wikipedia is great at explaining science, right?
Mhm.
But he wanted me to add a personal touch to it. So tell me like what you went through when you found the discovery, and then I had to rewrite it in that way.
Yeah. That's a weird, not necessarily weird. It's a hard skill to learn, especially for us coming from a science background. We're
Mhm.
like trained exactly not to do that.
Exactly, yeah. And people emphasize so much on, making it a story rather than, just an explanation.
Yeah.
That's one of the really crucial aspects of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm kind of interested in this sort of database type thing that you're talking about, sort of giving the not necessarily results or whatever, but the signal stuff to the
Mhm.
public as it comes out. It sounds kind of like preprints in a way. Like, what kind of analysis is done on that stuff when it's released? Like, is it just raw signal that people can look at, or
Yeah. So when the detectors actually, so we have online analysis pipelines that continuously, look at the data
okay,
and try to see if there's astrophysical signals buried inside that. And whenever they do make a detection, mm, that's what we announce. Like we have a signal there. Now, it
okay,
comes along with, as you can imagine, a lot of different caveats. Uh, for example, how strong is the signal with compared to the noise? Is there any different noise artifacts around it that sometimes try to mimic signals? We know that sometimes we get excess transient glitches in the noise that try to mimic these signals,
hmm,
and sometimes they can trigger a false positive, like a false trigger.
hmm,
But yeah, when we do it for the first time, it's just, hey, we have a signal, and this is and we release some basic information about the signal. And this information contains, I think the most important part it contains is how reliable the signal itself is. So what's the false alarm rate, for example, how significant it is. And the second bit is, where in the sky is it coming from? And this is really important because a lot of astronomers really want to follow up this source by pointing their own telescopes at that part of the sky and see if they can see something coming in the electromagnetic spectrum.
okay,
um, so that's one reason we so before the current observing run, astronomers had to sign an MOU with LIGO, saying that okay, we have our telescopes and we will be able to help you out with following up these sources. So it was like an agreement, and they got this information. But starting last year, we just released this information to anyone who's interested. Like, you have your own backyard telescope, which is good enough. You can
hmm.
just look at this trigger and then go and try to search for it. But
That's really cool.
yeah, but yeah, as I said, it's again not like a preprint because LIGO does not give away all the information. Like, it does not tell you if it was two black holes, it does not tell you what kind of black holes they were, like how heavy they were, for example. And this information, it's
Okay.
sort of something like, okay, we think that it needs to be vetoed a lot. So if we just released it, people would, kind of, just attack it and write their own papers about it without really knowing the inside stuff that LIGO knows about, how to really determine if it's that kind of signal.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a 6-month period where LIGO does its own analysis, and it also gets the first opportunity to analyze the signal, because,
Okay.
and then we release the whole data later.
Okay. So in this case, would you say would you tend to see like journalism type stuff, science journalism pieces come out in advance of the actual papers? Like it sounds like your work was kind of like that, right?
Can you repeat the last bit again? I think I lost a few words.
Oh, sorry. It sounds like the paper that you, or sorry, the article that you got published sort of preempted any formal analysis or like formal like research paper that comes out about
Ah,
it, which
yeah.
is a little bit
Um,
unusual for science. Can you maybe like talk about that a bit?
yeah. So um, that's true. So the article that I wrote about did not go beyond the public alert itself, like whatever information was included in that. In fact, I did not know about the inside details of that particular event also,
Mm-hmm.
because that was, as I mentioned, I was switching advisors, and that was like a period of a few months where I wasn't officially a part of the collaboration.
Okay.
So whatever I wrote, I can safely say that it was totally based on the public alert. But yeah, having said that, I said that LIGO doesn't tell you what masses the black holes were in. It does tell you the probability of them falling in different categories. So the
Okay.
categories are sort of roughly defined. So you can say that it's a binary neutron star. So both of them are neutron stars, and they are the events that astronomers are interested in, because you can actually see neutron stars merging. Whereas black holes, they're supposed to swallow everything, and there's no light coming out of them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the other category. And there's the one I wrote about was the thing in the middle. So you have we really don't know if any, we call these compact objects like neutron stars or black holes really high density objects. So we don't know if something exists between the range of having 3 times the mass of the sun and 5 times the mass of the sun. So we've seen neutron stars about 2.5 times the mass of the sun, and the lightest black holes that we have seen are about 5 times the mass of the sun. So we've seen nothing in between, and that's what LIGO started getting triggers about. So it started getting triggers that said that, okay, at least one of these pairs of objects that are colliding falls into this category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any concern that people could start writing just like articles for Scientific American or something before the actual research papers come out? Is there like any risk that could happen there? Is any sort of like false reporting that could happen, or is it just fine? Like I could imagine with preliminary results in like medicine or something, you could run into issues if you know get too publish too much about this stuff to the general public before it's fully analyzed. But I can't imagine that being too much of an issue with LIGO results.
Considering someone from outside the collaboration is writing about these things, what I can see happening is sometimes these public alerts can be misinterpreted. So I think there should be a good communication between folks in LIGO and who is writing about these alerts. And I know of a few examples of similar kind of reporting that was done. So these mass gap objects. Um, and what LIGO decides to release as public alerts sometimes has a lot of nuances behind them that a lot of outsiders don't know about, or sometimes don't need to know about. So
Mhm.
things like how to determine the false alarm rate. So that's something that tells you, how improbable or how probable this trigger should occur if it's just pure noise. And there's different ways of calculating, like, the math behind this. There's different ways of determining this false alarm rate that you don't directly make known. And I think that communication needs to be strong, so that these kind of things are not misinterpreted. So no one says that, oh, so this number that LIGO themselves have reported in the public alert means this, whereas if there's any chance of it being something else, that should be avoided.
Yeah.
mm, yeah. And I don't think, um, I'm trying to think if it breaks any kind of, uh, I don't know what's the word, embargo or something for LIGO. I mean, are they losing out on,
Mm.
people from outside reporting on any of these discoveries? Because I think there's not a lot of science that you can do without the actual data itself. I mean, you can write about the results. Mm, so it just boils down to, alerting, like, I mean, exciting the public about the wrong kind of things.
Right.
uh,
Okay.
but I don't think there's a big threat of that.
Yeah, I feel like probably exciting the public
Mm.
incorrectly about this kind of
Yeah.
result is like not the worst thing you can do. Like it probably doesn't affect people day to day on average, except for
Yeah.
people who are like actually in like astronomy or whatever. So it seems pretty
Right.
safe.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
That's really interesting.
it's also like sometimes astronomers themselves have done that. Like, if you remember, there was this experiment called Bicep, uh, which announced the existence of primordial gravitational waves, like from the Big Bang.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out to be something wrong with the detector itself, that there was
Oh,
it was
right,
getting
right.
affected by dust at
Okay.
that detector site. But they themselves were, really excited and telling it out, like, shouting out to the public, saying, "Oh, we've seen this." uh,
I
but,
remember during my
yeah.
undergrad, there was a similar false alarm. I think there's some group in Italy or something that thought
Hmm.
they found faster than light neutrinos or
Oh
something.
yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
I don't remember much of the specifics, but I think it ended up
Yeah.
just being like they just had some sort of delay in one of the cables that they were
Yeah,
using or
some kind of
something.
systematic thing. And yeah, the Bicep guy, he's actually a professor at UCSD. He ended up writing a book called "Losing the Nobel Prize,"
Oh
and it's
no.
it's actually a pretty popular book right now.
Okay.
uh,
I haven't heard of
I
that one. I
think
should pick it up.
Brian Keating, that's what his name is.
Okay.
See, he actually gave a talk at last year's APS April meeting.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that was cool to know. So, like, he completely owns up to, what went wrong,
Yeah.
and also, makes it a point to
Learn
help
from it.
avoid these things in the future. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should look that up. I have all the time in the world now to read stuff, so.
Right. Yeah.
um, okay, well, do you have any maybe other book recommendations, article recommendations, things that you've seen that maybe we can check out and keep
Yeah.
ourselves
So
busy?
I actually got this. I attended another ComSciCon last month. It was actually like March 12th and 13th. So had it begun a couple of days later, it would have been cancelled. It was right on the brink of everything shutting down. And this was the ComSciCon for the Southeast region. They call it ComSciCon Atlanta, but it's for all the Southeast. And they gave us two books. So this is something they gave out to, can you see this?
Oh, Best American Science and Nature
Nature
Writing.
writing, yeah.
Okay, and that's like for a specific year?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you probably don't see it. It's 2019, yeah.
Ah, okay.
So they gave this one out to everyone, and it's got a collection of about 20 stories from, last year, and it's great. Like, I've read a few of them until now.
Mhm.
One of them especially is by Ed Yong, and
Oh, I
He,
love that guy.
yeah, the title of that one is When the Next Plague Starts. And he wrote it last year talking about how prepared we are in case of a pandemic.
Wow.
And that's so super relevant.
Jeez.
It's a
I
lovely article. It starts out with talking about Ebola, but
okay.
then he mentions that it's more likely to have something like a flu or a virus is great at spreading, um,
Okay.
and that's gonna put us into trouble. Like, and
Huh.
he's interviewed Dr. Anthony Fauci. Do you say it Fauci, or he's the one
I'm not sure.
who's been in the news in the US lately? Because
Yeah, that
he's
sounds right. I think that's right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually, yeah, have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called Pandemic, maybe, or Contagion or something like that.
I've been recommended Contagion. Yeah.
Okay, one of those movies, it came
Uh
out a couple of years ago, and it's like eerily similar to what's happening right now.
huh.
And so they asked the guy who wrote it, like, how did you get this so right? And he's like, well, experts have kind of been predicting this for years and years and years now, and
Oh.
they have all this stuff, all of these precautions put in place, and this is how they modeled how it would happen. So I just talked to the scientists. They told me exactly what to write, and I just made that a movie. And it looks like it's playing out very similar to what they predicted.
Wow. And no one listened, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least we have like a sense of what to do to try to keep it under control or whatever.
Let's see. And talking about Ed Yong, that's the second book I got. So for the second thing, they had like a book swap. So they handed out books, like popular science books, to everyone. They had like 4 or 5 different titles, and they just let us go around, meet each other, and if you want to swap the book that you like,
Okay.
uh, you can get it done. But I got Ed Yong's book on microbes. It's called I Contain Multitudes, I think.
Okay.
I haven't started it yet, but that's the one I got, and I did not swap it because I really wanted that.
Yeah, I'd imagine that
Yeah,
would be great.
right. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, you'll have to
But
give us a book review when you're done.
yeah, that'll be
Cool.
good.
Well, thanks so much for talking to
Hmm.
me.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm actually interested in knowing about what you do for podcasting, and
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I kind of got thrown into it by accident. Not necessarily by accident. My friend started a radio show on campus,
Mhm.
and so she had all of the infrastructure, the show idea and stuff set up, and she would just go in once a week for 30 minutes and talk into microphones, and it would get broadcast.
Mhm.
And then you could just take the audio files off of their server. She didn't turn it into an actual podcast, but we
Mhm.
started doing that. But since we can't get into the radio station anymore, are you thinking more like the uh, software and stuff that we use, or
Um, I mean, pretty much anything that has. So let me tell you what I'm looking for. So
okay,
what I do is I host a science cafe in our town. It's like a monthly thing where we have different faculty come and give up public talks, and for the past 3 or 4 of them, we have started recording the talks. And what I want to do is turn all those talks into a podcast by taking clips from what they say and then adding a storyline to that.
okay, so like
um
voiceover plus raw audio.
yes, yeah,
Okay,
I can actually. So the first one that I made is actually ready, and it's also online, so I can share it with you so that you can get a better
yeah, that'd
idea
be
of how
awesome.
it works. Like, but yeah, I'm very new to it, so it was very awkward at the beginning to try and record my own voice.
Yeah,
And I
that's
would,
that's definitely the hardest part, I think. So what I use for sort of
Mhm.
chopping up the bits and like arranging things is Audacity. What
Yeah, that's
program?
the one I
Okay.
went to. Yeah,
So that
because
one I
it's
think
free and it's pretty
has,
nice, I think.
yeah, it's very much like a Pro Tools or like a
Hmm.
professional grade software. I can't really see any downside to using it.
Hmm.
Um, but then
Do
as
you have any
far,
good Audacity like tutorials that you learned from?
Um, Not offhand. So I spent a lot of time as a teen and early 20s doing like music stuff and like recording music.
Uh, uh-huh.
So the professional software that I used for music recording, it's almost identical to Audacity. So I just sort of
Hmm.
knew how to do that already.
That's cool.
But I could definitely take a look, and I was thinking of kind of making some anyway, just
Mm-hmm.
myself clicking through some stuff. So I'll send you whatever I can find, and then I'll send you
Sure,
that when
yeah.
it's done.
That'll be
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
but as far as posting stuff, do you have a place where you are planning to post it, or a way of getting it online?
That's what I was looking into also. So we have a website for the Science Cafe itself that's hosted in our university server.
Okay.
So I can put the audio files there. But I was looking up ways to, you have to make an RSS feed or something to actually get it into one of these platforms, like say Apple Podcasts or something like that. So,
Right. So what I would recommend is if you go to anchor.fm,
mhm.
you can make an account there, and it's the simplest thing I've ever seen. You just upload the audio file to that,
Mhm.
publish it, and then it goes and creates an account on all of the different apps, like
Oh,
Apple and Google and Spotify and stuff.
and it's free.
It's free, yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Like, I
Yeah,
saw a few
it's
options which were not free, and I was wondering if it's possible at all.
yeah, Anchor.fm.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think what they do is they try to match podcasts with advertisers and then take something off the top.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, so you can, if you want, put in little spots where advertisers can sort of buy in.
Hmm.
But until you have like a certain number of listeners, you're probably not going to get any offers.
I have like
Which,
10 right now.
yeah, and you
So,
don't even have to take the offers if you don't want to. So,
okay.
but yeah, it's just sort of a drag and drop, and then publish, and then it goes to like 10 different outlets.
That's great. Yeah. I'll definitely try to set that up. That looks great.
Hmm
Um,
I also found putting stuff on YouTube, even if there's no video, is nice because it does automatic closed captioning.
YouTube?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'll sometimes just throw like a still photo, put the
Hmm.
audio behind it, and then say like if you need closed captioning, you can find it on YouTube,
That's
etc.
also a good idea, but I imagine like, is it like, do you find a lot of listeners who like go to YouTube for that?
Not so much when we just
Mm-hmm.
had the still audio, but
Mm-hmm.
then we started taking video because we were
Mm-hmm.
just there anyway, and we could just put a phone up or whatever. And a
Yeah.
lot more people go for that, even though there's really nothing interesting happening on camera. But I don't know, it's not too much more effort. And if it helps, a dozen people or something, it's a nice thing to do.
I see. And are your podcasts or is it mostly interviews?
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
most part. Our weekly one is usually one-on-one interviews. And then I try to do one a month that's a little bit more investigative or storytelling, where I do like various audio takes and voiceover type things.
Hmm.
But that's kind of on a as I find things to talk about basis.
I see. I'm thinking of doing a couple of interviews. And um, again, I haven't really done those before. So how do you go about it? Like, uh, for example, I think so. We were supposed to host an astronomer for this month's Science Cafe, but of course
Okay.
everything's cancelled now. But I'm thinking of inviting her to talk about the kind of things you can see in the sky while you're at home. uh,
Okay.
just head out and look at. But yeah, I mean, uh, I would essentially like to get some tips on how to
Yeah.
conduct
It,
an interview. And
it's definitely something that you don't get trained for as a researcher. But I found that the first couple that I did were
froze.
pretty
Can you hear
horrible.
me?
Yep.
You just froze for a moment. I think you're fine
Sorry.
now.
I think I just jiggled my cable a little bit. Can you
Ah,
hear me
okay,
now?
yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the first couple that I did were pretty rough, but
Mm-hmm.
things that I've started to do to make them less rough is if you have an opportunity to do like a little pre-interview, like a just a 5-minute talk or something,
Mm-hmm.
just to like sort of bat some ideas around, that's usually helpful, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps with like smoother transitions between topics.
Okay.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you can't do that, then what I usually try to do for like the live radio show is have maybe three main points, main questions that I kind of want to get to. Um, mention that before you start talking to them, like mention that maybe you're going to ask them about those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess just don't be afraid to ask the most basic questions, and don't be afraid to ask the same question in a couple different ways if you don't get an answer that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then it's just, I think, repetition, doing it over and over again, and
I imagine, yeah, that's the best way to get good at something, right?
losing the fear to some extent.
It's like a day before, or is it
I'm sorry?
the pre-interviews that you mentioned? Is it like just before the call, or is it like
It depends.
yeah?
In my situations, it's usually just maybe like 10 minutes or so before,
Okay.
or
Hmm.
sometimes if I'm contacting people via email or Twitter to get an interview in, then we can kind of text back and forth a little bit leading up to it,
I see. Yeah.
and that's usually fine. Um, yeah, I would say just start interviewing anybody that you can get access to.
Okay.
And yeah, I think most people are very excited to talk about the stuff anyway,
Hmm.
so you can only do so bad. They'll usually step in and do a great job.
And how much editing goes into it at the end?
For the weekly radio show, none. We just do it live, straight to air.
Okay.
So sometimes it's not the greatest, but
Live
it's
is
usually
scary,
our
yeah.
fault. Yeah.
But if it's
As
not going to be live, uh,
then usually not so much. I
okay.
personally like to try to keep as much in as possible, make it more sort of human, and
Hmm.
but I guess you could chop it up almost arbitrarily
Hmm.
fine if you wanted to.
Let's see. I mean, that's probably the most challenging bit because I've conducted interviews in the past, but they were typically to get quotes for a written
Uh,
story. So, I mean, of course, you can have bits like I shouldn't have said it this way in that, but that doesn't matter. You're just writing it down.
yeah,
But this is using the actual audio to go
yeah.
into it. Yeah.
The most editing I've done has been just to sort of reorganize the discussion. Like sometimes you'll start talking about something, jump to a different topic, and then think about another aspect of the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that case, you're just sort of chopping big blocks. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and in that case, using like the fade tool in Audacity is pretty useful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've used a couple of those things in Audacity. Like with Audacity, it's like for my first podcast, I think I made it work, but then there's so many tools that you can see there that you're not using it.
Yeah,
So it'll be great if you share uh, what you mentioned. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Maybe I'll do that
about
this
that.
week.
Yeah,
I'll start making some videos. I don't use a heck of a lot of them. Like I don't use many effects or anything. It's mostly just sort of cutting and fading and like
okay.
altering
Mm-hmm.
volume. Sometimes I use a compressor or like the equalizer a little bit, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
That's
maybe I'll put that together for you. And yeah, if you don't mind sharing that link to the one episode that you said that you had, I'd love to
sure.
take a
Yeah,
look.
I would love that. Yeah, and be sure to criticize it like properly.
All right, sounds good.
I'll send you a link on Twitter. I think that's the best.
Yeah, okay,
Uh, yeah, I can do it right after the call. Yeah.
perfect.
Hmm.
So what else do you have planned for the day? Just reading and working
Yeah,
from home.
pretty much just reading, and then yeah, at some point I'm gonna get burned out. Like how? So you, I saw in a picture that you shared on Twitter. Like you have a dog
Yeah,
with you.
right over here,
Yeah,
actually. She was,
and whoa, hey there. Yeah, I'm so jealous of people with pets at their home right now at this moment.
it's a very, yeah, I
Yeah.
feel very lucky to have the pup over here. Do you have any roommates, or are you living alone?
I have a roommate. Yeah,
Okay,
so it's there is someone in the house.
that could be a gift and a curse, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, we make sure we don't hang out too much that we get tired of each other.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
it's
good.
good. Definitely good to like being alone would be so much worse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I feel bad for the people who are stuck all by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's crazy, crazy times.
Yeah.
So, if if you don't, oh, there
Was
we
that
go.
the 40-minute thing that just happened?
I think it might have just been my connection. I think I just lost connection real quick.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, so maybe if you don't have any other recording questions, maybe I'll let you go.
Mhm.
And I'll definitely, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
start putting together some stuff, and I'd love to see your work. And I don't know, maybe we can work together or something. Do some,
That'd be awesome. I'll really appreciate that.
yeah, that'd be fun.
Sure, yeah. And yeah, any chance that, as you said, like the more I do something with audio, the better I'll get at it. So if I get the
Yeah,
chance to, keep doing it, like I love that.
yeah. If you want to do like periodic interviews or something, or like just chat back and forth about science, I'd be more than happy to make this a regular thing.
For sure, yeah. For example, like you can tell me about your research the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
So
cool. That'll be fun.
great.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. See ya.
Sure. Yeah. Have a good day.